If you have been engaged in South African politics, you would know that before elections, Abo Floyd Shivambu were the ones involved in the negotiations of the coalition, the national coalition, and with the ANC and other political parties. So today, I want to play to you a clip, and this is an expose of actually what happened within at the negotiations. According to Floyd Chibambu, is that there was different egos involved, and you remember with about Mr. Fikile Mbalula, there were two egotistical that EFF Floyd Chibambu was policy test, was Joella Gabi, Saifela the test, like they didn't care. They were too arrogant with it. And today there's an expose. Hidden secrets many people don't know. And Floyd Shibambu is gonna spill the beans. And you're gonna get a deeper understanding as to what actually happened during the negotiations. Why is the government formed the way it's formed today? Take a listen at this.
Look, I think the electoral outcomes reflected the will of the people. And I think we must always respect the will of the people.
Sure.
I once overheard a very sorry characterization of the outcomes of these elections, by the way. Someone was saying, we were not voted because the people of South Africa are sick. Like, he said, there's a sickness of society. That is why we're not voted.
Wow. Yeah.
And then I was like, wow, this is a very dangerous characterization because if you characterize majority as being sick because they didn't vote for you, then you are venturing into dangerous territory, as a leader or as anything in society. But the outcomes of elections reflect the will of the people. But what I think is satisfactory is that the forces which otherwise, I said it in Parliament when I was in Parliament now, when we're debating the budget vote on national treasury and even in my debate in SONA, I said that this elections outcome presented an opportunity for political formations whose umbilical cords are buried in the same yard to reunite and agree on the common agenda as to what do we do moving forward. How do we constitute a progressive government? And the progressive forces whose umbilical cords are buried in the same yard would constitute more than 2/3 of the politics in South Africa today.
As we stand today.
It's so unfortunate that the opportunity to do that was not pursued, and largely for subjective reasons. So I was in
why do you think that was? Because you're one of the people who would have seen this.
It's also the misreading and the ego issues that were at play, and like that. No, you cannot talk to me like that. You cannot do this. I can show you. I can just go and do as I wish, and everything as this. I was involved in the negotiations,
absolutely,
far much more intimately, and I know that this ANC-D alliance is not a result of a principled decision. It's subjective considerations that were at play. And it's so sad that we had subjective considerations that got to override principle altogether. So the manner in which it was handled was unfortunate. And it speaks to the political and ideological maturity of the leadership in general, in all formations, in terms of what got to happen. And of course, there was also a mischaracterization of what was the position of Mkhonto Wezize party during that period. And then, of course, because Mkhonto Wezize is announced in December 16, 2023, and it goes into election trail. There's no identifiable leadership structures. And President Zuma correctly, whenever people make mistakes which are costly to the organization, he takes decisions to remove them immediately.
He doesn't claim.
And that is how he operates. That this is a foundation of the organization. So you can't have defective characters at the core of the foundation, because if you have defective characters and politics at the core, the organization will be deformed forever. So you need a core that is much more solid, so that you know that the foundation is solid. Thereafter, you can be able to then deal with everything else. So then MK in the negotiation process in the 14 days was not that accessible.
Right.
So people did not know where to find it and everything else. And then there were lots of subjective weaknesses that defined both the ANC and the EFF as well, in terms of how the approach was handled. But otherwise, this tragic situation of a government of neoliberal unity could have been avoided if a certain degree of maturity and proper protection of principled politics should have been applied. Like, if that had been applied, we're not going to have this situation that we have currently. It's subjectivity got to override objectivity. It got to override principle. And it's one of the things that have to be reversed in the foreseeable future. And that will require leadership that is much more focused and disciplined in the manner in which we deal with politics. What defines our common interest? We share a common constituency. What is priority and all of those other things there. So why would the ANC go into government with an organization which is diametrically opposed to everything else, which on paper it stands for, whilst there is alternatives which could constitute a progressive government based on the will of the people, based on the Freedom Charter as well.
And what do you make of how the coalition government has fared since it was constituted?
They obviously will not be tangible assessments and tangible results that they could achieve within the 100 days. But you can see that they will perpetually and consistently be sacrifices that will be made mostly by the ANC. So, for instance, they signed the Basic Education Laws Amendment law, and then the president of the ANC says that certain sections which are objectionable on the side of AfriForum and the DA are not going to come into effect now. You might capitulate forever. The ANC might capitulate forever. So it will be a game of capitulation on many principal issues. And that capitulation will compromise the interest of our people. That you are guaranteed. Like every time there's a compromise, it's at the expense of our people. It's at the expense of a transformative and revolutionary agenda. So, and everything else that the descendants of colonial settlers will object to, there will be capitulation by the ANC. Of course, they will act bolder in terms of how this is being handled. They will communicate all sorts of mixed messages, but they're going to capitulate to the DA's agenda. So they won't be, so if this government of neoliberal unity persists for a longer period of time, there will be a very thin line between the ANC and the Democratic Alliance. There will be one thing. And then that is why that we have to build an alternative, a platform, a revolutionary platform,